morning, brother. Good morning, fathers. So, I think I'm too courageous to accept this invitation. And I had my very first spiritual director who told me, your self-confidence will kill you. Because I'm not a guy who is timid or afraid. So when I was invited, I said, okay, I will try my best. And because I feel I owe much to the congregation and also to EAO, and I have to repay for what I have received. So I took this challenge of sharing. And the theme that I'll be sharing with you is the prophets of fraternity, as we already know. And this is a theme of the general chapter, and I'm sure we already know this. This is from the letter of the Rector Major, Father Pascal Chavez, when he convoked their general chapter 27. And here we speak of two things. That is, being witnesses and being prophets. So, as religious, we are to be witnesses. So, that is very evident, and we will see along the way also. So, this, our gospel witness is not limited to the practice of the evangelical councils only. It involves one's whole being. Touching its vital elements, especially like the following of Christ and the search for God, the fraternal life in community, and the mission. So there are three things that Rector Major has pointed out. So as prophets, now what are we to do? Rector Major says, in today's multicultural and multi-religious world, there is also a demand for the witness that of evangelical fraternity. This Rector Major is quoted from John Paul II in his encyclical, the post-synodal encyclical Ecclesia in Europa. And our religious communities are being called to be courageous in living the gospel as an alternative lifestyle and a stimulus to purifying and integrating different values through the reconciliation of divisions. So this is the direct words from the John Paul II. So I have put here. Here the Holy Father, not Saint John Paul II, mentioned the gospel of hope. We are to give hope to this society, to this world, especially the Pope mentions of Europe. But this is what all of us need. Our evangelical fraternity characterizes the consecrated life and makes it a stimulus to purify and integrate in different values through the reconciliation of divisions. We know how much this world is divided. So we are called to witness to this gospel of hope. And in the Vita Consecrated number 21, and this is also quoted by the document of our GC 27 when it speaks of prophets of fraternity. It says, it uses this word, not there, what I have put in this yellow letter. No. It says, now whereby fraternal life, whereby consecrated persons strive to live in Christ with one heart and soul, is put forward as an eloquent witness to the Trinity. So our life is eloquent witness to the Trinity. So Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, how we witness is the Holy Father has elaborated in this letter. Then the speak of witness, I want to give you one personal experience that I had. I had the joy of visiting Holy Land in September 2009 as part of the biblical studies in the Holy Land. And there were, as we see, The different nationalities were there. And there our meeting point, our meeting point in visiting Holy Land before we go out is in front of this gate. What we call is this Jaffa, Jaffa gate, for sure, for the window. And that is our landmark, our meeting point is there. So one day we were gathered there. We were waiting for the professor, Franciscan, to come. And we were clicking photos for one another. We were in a group. And suddenly, a man approached. And he asked, "From where are you?" I said, "I'm from Myanmar." And there were also some Koreans were there, Africans were there, Latin Americans were there, Americans were there, Europeans, the Spanish and Italians were there. And he just remarked this line that he says, what he says, "It is possible for different nationalities to live together peacefully." And he just says that and went away. He just asked us from where we are, from what nationality were we. Then he said, "It is possible for different nationalities to live together peacefully." And in that holy land, we call it holy, we have to be always in fear. In that land, he made this statement. And I think our group was a real witness, especially to that man who saw this witness. We were different in colors, different in face, and we were speaking Italian that time because it was an Italian group. And it was a surprise for him to see us taking photos for one another, embracing one another, or taking photos, not enjoying together. And it is really a witness. And we are called to be prophets. For sure, all of us have undergone these biblical studies, and we know who are the prophets. So just to run through, who are the prophets? So the office of prophet came about as a result of a direct call from God. So it is a direct call from God. It is not like priests. They are not hereditary, but a special mission is given to them. So in the Bible, we will see that a lot of importance not to the call of commissioning of the prophet, which was often accompanied by visionary of other extraordinary experiences. The visions of to Jeremiah, to Ezekiel, and even to Isaiah, we know very well. In these accounts, the prophetic intermediary can be represented as a messenger commissioned by the Lord. And therefore, the prophetic speech is often introduced with the form used in the delivery of a message, "Thus says the Lord," or some similar formula addressed. So it is the message a prophet gets, and he shared it to God, to other people. But then, sometimes the prophetic calling could be expected to involve struggle, persecution, and suffering. We know very well these things already. And what are the message of the prophets? So they stress more on the future. Their primary concern was with contemporary events. We know the message that the prophets give to the people is with regards to their morality and then the social justice system. These are the things that the prophets they carry in their messages. And also, thing here is the prophets speak not only of the future, but they speak more of the contemporary thing, and then not only judgments and condemnations. What they give is, the last paragraph it says, however, the prophetic speech is not confined to judgment and condemnation. The prophets also exhort, cajole, which means console them. Consolation also is the encourage. They announce salvation and a good prognosis for the future. So, prophet is not only the one who condemn or who give not the doom prophet only. There are prophets who really give hope and encouragement to the people. So we are called to be the prophets of hope, that encourage others. I just want to show you the 2 minutes video clips. in which we are asked of to be witnesses, not to be prophets. So the world, quite a complicated world now, and in this world we are asked to be prophets. It's from BBC.
Ukraine and Russia, civil war in Syria, the threat of a brutal so-called caliphate across the Middle East. It seems like the world we're living in is slipping out of control. 9 months after protests that toppled a president, a vote returning Crimea to Russia, fighting in Ukraine's eastern region continues. Russia denies involvement, but the situation has plunged Europe into its worst diplomatic crisis since the Cold War. While a long-term ceasefire has been agreed, violence in Gaza and parts of Israel this summer left more than 2,000 Palestinians and 69 Israelis dead. The rapid rise of Islamic State has sparked fear and outrage across the world. This extremist group has beheaded and crucified prisoners and declared a caliphate in Iraq and Syria. Since the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi, militia groups are Libya's biggest security threat as successive governments have struggled to exercise control. Al-Qaeda's leader announced the creation of Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent and continued loyalty to the Taliban in Afghanistan. Many fear the Taliban's resurgence when foreign troops leave in December. Southeast Asia has been the base of radical Islamist groups for decades, particularly those in the Philippines and Indonesia. Insurgents have been active in Africa too, with Nigeria the focal point of an offensive by Boko Haram. Its attacks, assassinations and abductions have led to the deaths of thousands. Violence continues in South Sudan and the Central African Republic. With events like these shaping our world and millions of people fleeing the conflicts, who holds the power? How do you operate in a world where diplomacy is off the table and sanctions don't appear to apply anymore?
So that's it. Just to show you, with this, no continent in this world is free from conflicts. And the sad thing is, nowadays the wars are happening not because of economy, not because of the colonization, but because of religion. Very alarming situation that we are having in this present time. And we are asked to be witnesses of as the prophets of fraternity. Can we really live in peace? And that is the society in which we are called to be witnesses. But then, we ourselves are not free from these challenges. The realities of our communities also reflect what is happening in the world also. So with regards to the challenges, I want to just highlight one sentence from the talk of the Holy Father to the chapter members of GC27. What is written in black notice. At times, religious communities are fraught with tensions and risk becoming individualistic and scattered. This is the reality that is happening in our communities. It's burdened with tensions. We only know what are the tensions that we have in our community life. And another one is from the report of the rector, our former rector major, or rector major emeritus, that was being used there in the chapter. He says, in his view, and with the experience of these 12 years of government, there are three we must pay particular attention to. He said there are three areas of challenges he is highlighting as he presented the state of the congregation. He said first is the community life. Second, the young. And the third, vocation and formation. And in the document that I have given you, I have just copied that part of the message of the Rector Major, if you take 502. And here, Rector Major mentions of the government only, of the leaders only. When he speaks of the challenges to community life, here he says, no, in his time as the Director Major in his 12-year service, he said, looking for superiors, provincials and writers who could really be the soul of the communities, provincial or local, and who might firstly be people with the triple focus. And in his report, he says, no, it is the tremendous responsibility that these provincials and writers hold in this congregation. So 3 focus: a charismatic focus, focus of fraternal life, and pastoral focus. And in the group meetings, no? Because in the chapter we have the assembly, we have the 5 or 6 different groups, and in the one group we still break up in the small groups. And I was in the group of Father Basanias. And when they were mentioned, about the fraternal life, they were always speaking of the writers. Then I said, please, what about the provincials? And I said, what about the provincials? Nothing is said about the provincials in this document, in this working document. And Father Basanya said, hey, Mariano, there are more than 50% plus of the members of the provincials. So don't try to attack them. They will all kill you. He said that more than half of the chapter members are the provincials. So they would not like to discuss about them. So you don't try to push this topic. But I said, what about them? If they don't lead, if they don't anything properly, what will happen to the province? No? So this is what Writer Majors mentions here, about the provincials and then the writers. Here, the last paragraph it says, no? The last line. Now, to succeed in this, we need to be totally dedicated, body and soul. It is not possible to carry out these functions entrusted to us part-time, or still less those connected with the exercise of authority. So how important is the role of the writers and provincials in the life of the community. So the challenge of the, what I see is the leadership and then the animation in the communities. And another challenge is given by the letter of our Rector Major, Father Angel. In his letter of his very first letter, Acts of the General Council 419, here he says, but he summarized the points in which is already in the chapter document. Here he says, what are the realities of our communities? Here he says, no, even though it appears that behind respect and tolerance may lie indifference and the lack of care for our confreres. So, the realities of our communities, indifference, lack of care for our confreres, and creeping materialism and activism. So we care more for our work than for our confreres. We sacrifice our confreres for the sake of fulfilling the work. And then the materialism. And all this, he says, is due to weak conviction that our life as a community is a stolen time, he said. It's a waste of time to live in community. Some they feel it that way. So the weak conviction that disturbs our community life. So these are the challenges that we are meeting nowadays in our community life. And I just want to reflect these realities, these challenges in the biblical model of apostolic community. That is Matthew chapter 18. So allow me to share, because I have done some biblical study, so I just want to see our realities of our communities with the biblical model. And we know the Gospel of Matthew is very well edited, and then there are groups of speeches are there. And there are the discourses, that discourses directly addressed to the disciples. This is one of the two that we have. The whole chapter of Matthew 18 speaks of our community living. So the first one is, the apostles were fighting who is the greatest. How much we fight for the authority and how much conflict we have in our communities, the rivalries, the competition among us, and asking who is the greatest. That is Matthew chapter 18 verses 1 to 4. It's asking who is the greatest among us. The realities of the community of the apostles. And the second one is the scandals that existed in the early apostolic communities too. Jesus speaks of those who, okay, there should be mistakes, there should be wrong, but those who cause wrong or those who cause these fallings, they should be thrown into the water, not tying the millstone on the neck. So the reality of the scandals, most of us have already shared. One of the difficulties we meet in our formation work is the scandals among the conference. The bad example that the senior conference give, with that we find hard to form our conference and initial formation, the reality of the scandals. And another one is the lost sheep. Just now we saw the Rector Major has mentioned a lot, to take care of our conference, to find the lost sheep. In our communities, we will always have the lost sheep, to go after them, to find them out. Those who have gone astray, we have the responsibility to find them. We will always have this conference who astray. The lost sheep will always exist. And another one is the fraternal correction. And on this point, our retreat preacher, Father Bartholomew, he gave the retreat talks on this biblical passage only. He made very long reflection on this. And inside here he says, to treat him as an outsider, as a Gentile, as a tax collector, he said, it is necessary to expel some members if they don't behave, if they refuse to obey. As the fraternal correction is act of charity, and expulsion is also act of charity, according to this biblical passage. In that way only, that person can change, he can experience the conversion in that case only. If we just allow him to go on doing the mistake, he will not change. So he said, the expulsion is the act of fraternal charity. After all these corrections, we have to take the measure of sending away. This is the reflection or the talk of the Bartholomew, who gave us the retreat preaching during the chapter. And another aspect is the community prayer. Where two or three gather in my name, they agree together. Here, the word here is that we gather and agree. There, Jesus is with us. How important is the community prayer also is given in this chapter. And the last one, which is the longest part, is that of forgiveness. In the communities, the characteristic of forgiving or forgiveness is very important. It goes Jesus gave a parable how we are to forgive others. So this is another reality of our community living. So if we look at these aspects, we find them back in our documents also. And in our real life too, we will find that these things exist in our communities. And the GC27 experience, it was a very, very encouraging and very inspiring one. For the first time, we said there were 207 members, 13 invited, and 128 chapter members were there. and the charismatic discernment, because there were 92 provinces. And the word used during the chapter is intercultural fraternity. 58 countries were there. So it was an experience that really, for me, it was very precious, and then it gives me, the appreciation for my own salvation vocation participating in this chapter. And we have a lot of experiences, not just sitting up or meeting, but a lot of sharings, a lot of this getting to know one another experience were there also. And from there we get the chapter document. I'm sure you have already studied in your province too, you must have already have transmission of this thing. So there are 4 processes proposed for to be prophets of fraternity. First one is from functional and formal relationships to warm and supportive ones, relationships of profound communion. So that is the first process. The second one is from prejudice and closure to fraternal correction and reconciliation. So from prejudice and closure to fraternal correction and reconciliation. And another 2 processes will be from individualistic pastoral initiative to unconditional availability for the mission and community and province planning. So it speaks a lot of planning together, mission to be of community. And from considering young people as simple beneficiaries and lay people as collaborators to promoting young people in leading roles and lay people as sharing responsibility for the one mission. So the young people are not just beneficiaries, they also can share our responsibility. Lay people not only collaborators, but they also can share our responsibility as one mission. So that is the challenge, even to go beyond our communities, to be one with our collaborators and the young people also. So these are the 4 processes that is approached and proposed, and for sure we will be working out on these 4 proposals in our formation houses, and how do we form them in this way will be the challenge that we have to take up. And that's all is my presentation.